before we actually and we'll do this order if it's okay. As of right now, I have Tonica, Janice, Ken, and Madeline if she shows up. If you change your mind, wonderful. If not, wonderful. I'm curious, given that this is sort of the mental health happy-ish hour. I'm getting kind of cute with the name, right? But uh, if you want to unmute yourself, video or no video, always up to you. I'm just curious. I want to just check in for a few minutes. I know that word is used a lot. Just want to check in. Check in. Let's check in. Let's have a quick check in. But whether you're telling a story or not, it's been, whether even if we didn't have this lockdown, I mean, this opportunity, people need to talk about this stuff, right? That's a given. But maybe it's been exacerbated, been more challenging. So I'm just curious, how you doing? Like, I'm not a big fan of people just saying I'm fine. I mean, I respect that if you're doing that. Are you really? So I'm curious, Maria, how are you?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to go have a meal with some friends today. We've had our own little pod, like in person, 6 of us. And if I didn't have these friends through the holidays and New Year's, and just if I didn't have these 6 people in my life, I don't think I'd be doing so well.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling grateful I have these people and they live close to me. Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, cool. So you physically get to see them.
I physically see them. And I mean, that's who I have to physically see people. I don't do well without it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm living alone now. So, completely alone. So it's different.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful that I found, or Sean found me, I guess.
I'm glad we found each other. Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
I was just counting the other day that I have not had another human in my house since Thanksgiving. Me and my German Shepherd, and there hasn't been another human breath in this house. To be sure, I don't have COVID because nobody was here to give it to me, but it is really tough. Yeah. One of the really strange things is because of the extreme abuse I suffered as a child, I have an avoidance disorder. I like being by myself. And even though I'm seeing a therapist, I'm really doing well because I don't like people around me. I don't want anybody in my house. So this has almost been heaven.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spoken to people that they, in a way, it's made their lives, I don't know if the word's better, but it's been okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss, my parents are in their 90s and they live 3 hours from me. I haven't seen them for months. I haven't seen any family. I've got family around here. I live in the mountains in West Virginia. I'm related, honestly, to 75% of the people around here. I'm not kidding. I am.
Wow. All right. So, okay.
Yeah, but
so you have family everywhere, but you don't see them much.
And I'm okay. I'm like, I am just enjoying doing things repetitiously, going for walks in the woods by myself, going turkey hunting by myself, and just doing whatever I want to do. I don't have to talk to anybody. I know. Well, I guess that's my story there. I just told it. Boom.
I was just thinking, there's a few stories in that whole thing for sure.
Yeah.
And you're
definitely being alone. The energy in the house is different.
Yes. Yeah.
I lived with an alcoholic who recently passed away, and so it's like a lift, which sounds bizarre.
I get it,
but it's like a relief in a sense, because I'm not worried every day. I'm not trying to fight to get this person sober, So it's like a weight has lifted off. So I found that I have a little bit more energy, and stuff like that. So
yes,
yeah, and then guilt hits you because you're like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way, but in reality, you know.
Sure you don't have a story, Sherry?
Oh, I have stories.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
when the time is right.
Yeah. Not ready for that one yet.
Yeah, no. I mean, a lot of these stories are too new, or I mean, maybe you never tell them.
Unless you want me to sit here and bawl my eyes out.
Right. No, right. Exactly. Right. Like if you're going to be bawling your eyes out, that's a tough spot to be in. So understandable. Sure.
Kind of wish he was like older and, you know,
He was younger, right?
yeah, he was only 31.
Yeah. It's brutal.
So,
Was that
yeah.
last week? Was that about a week ago?
He died almost 2 weeks ago today.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. There's my nephew who lived with me, and he's like my son. Yeah, he was only 31, so
Tough. Yeah.
But you know,
Glad
Sean
you're
knows
here.
I'm an open book.
Glad
much
that
of-
you could join us in a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure there's nothing we could really say that changes anything, right? At least that's my
No.
experience. And I so you
Right.
know, hang in there.
You checked in on me, so I appreciate that.
No, I was actually being facetious. I want you to hang in there. I was just particularly helpful for people, but maybe I'm more
Right.
sensitive than others. Might did backfire.
You're funny. I get your humor, so.
Yes, I appreciate that. You might be in the 1%. But so I guess the goal is just to find the 1%, right?
That's right.
A couple people, Rowena, and apologies if I didn't pronounce that correctly, and Christiane have joined us. Not calling you out, but if you have a story you'd like to tell, let me know in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. It's going to be a pretty small group, so we don't have to rush. But our first storyteller is Tonica. Tonica, we'll do in a couple of minutes. Is that cool?
Sure.
As people come in, because I think there's a few other people that were at a different show called Bodies of Stories out of Toronto. Is it Toronto or Montreal? Do we know?
I think it was Toronto,
Toronto.
wasn't it? It was Aaron Rodgers.
No, it's not Aaron. It was Bruce.
What was it? Oh,
That, yeah. So I mentioned that because there's a lot of different storytelling shows now that you can be a part of that, you know, a year ago, you would not have really had the opportunity. So all
right.
kinds, open mics, slams, curated shows, just show up like this one and tell. Some of them have sort of themes, some of them don't. So if you like this stuff, and I know some of you know this, so I encourage you to do it. It can help. All right, so if you've not chatted, put a message in the chat or unmuted yourself. I'm going to assume that you're here just to listen, which is great, and I appreciate that. All right. Tonica, I don't know you that well. What I know of you is you are in the Northeast.
Correct.
I know that your first name has 3 syllables.
Correct.
Right?
It's like we're soulmates.
And I think it's
We
fair
love
to
so
say,
much.
it's safe to say that you have a nice laugh.
Thank you.
So I'm going to give you the floor and tell your story. And then
Okay.
afterwards, what we'll do after everybody tells their story, and I think at this point, it could be 3, 4, 5 people. If you want to stick around and chat, a little sort of loose Q&A, which is already what we're kind of doing, please do that. But it's all good. All right, Tonica, we're all ears.
So by the way, could you turn off the
Pause.
recording for me?
Yeah, I'm going to pause it right now.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Weeks ago to do a story on mental illness on Collider podcast. I think Sean would tell you that later. It was an interesting journey into not only the episodes of my mental illness, but it also allowed me to reflect on it, and reflect on myself on mental illness. If many of you don't know, I have multi-personality dissociation. It wasn't found until I was late in my age. And at that time, there was no treatment for older people that had this disorder. My story is about my journey into my other selves, as I call it. When I remember the first time that I had an episode, or you call disassociation. Basically, disassociation means that I become somebody else with its own memories, its own experience, and without me even knowing that part of me. And most of you, if you have heard the story Sybil, I'm just Janice. But anyway, the first episode I remember, I was sitting, and it was 1950, and I give you the years because during the 50s there was no Civil Rights Act, there was no social program or anything, and I grew up in Spanish Harlem during that time in poverty. My parents were very dysfunctional, very. And I remember my first episode, I was in the car between my mother and my father. I must have been about a year or two. And I remember my parents starting to argue. And I remember that moment that I just became zoned out. I just went away. And I guess it's because of the whatever, but that was my first time since I was 2 years old. What happened next was that another time that I remember was that I was walking through a complex in Harlem, and they just tore down this block, and it just had like the skeletons of building, and it was a shortcut to go to school. And I was with my friend Susan, and we went through where we were attacked by a group of boys and raped, and my companion was murdered. I say this to you because I remember being in a classroom and being only 8 years old or 7 years old. I didn't know who to go to, or even at that time, I was afraid to. But I do remember I was in my classroom in the second grade or first grade, and the kid across from me said, "Oh, she's dead." And I remember then and there that I totally left. I totally disassociated. And it was from that time, from the second grade, that I have had bouts of disassociation. When I think about all the times that I woke up on strange places, times I don't remember who I was, where I'd been, having people come up to me and ask me by different names. I thought it was just part of me. I didn't question it. I just felt that something was wrong with me, but I just didn't know. And I accepted that I was different. And I went through my whole life with these personalities coming out at times where I could not cope. They will come out. In 1997, I disassociated where one of my personality called the mental health hotline. And I found myself in a psychiatric ward. And I found myself being called different names and not understanding why in the hell was I there? And why were people calling me different names? Until a psychiatrist who was Muslim, who was on her was there as her residency, was able to diagnose me. Prior to that, I was told I had borderline personality. I was depressed and so forth. When I look back, and let me just go further. My friend who was a mental health director directed me and got me help at the age of 42. And it was this woman by the name of Miss Weinstein, who was a children therapist who took my case. And she said to me, "I cannot help you more or less bring all your personalities together, but I can help you to find them, to see who they are. And I remember on the day that I met my 11 personalities, it was a day that I was so overwhelmed because as I actually visualized in the room that the therapist helped me create to see my personality, that all of these 11 personalities were there not to make my life hell, but they were there to help me, to protect me. They were my rescuer. They were my heroes. And I realized at that moment that my self-love was so strong, or my self-love was so strong that I disassociated to have personalities to protect me. So now that I reflect back on my illness, which is not fully integrated, I realized that they were my heroes and that I had it in myself to self-love to survive. Thank you.
Thanks, Janice. You know what's interesting? Some people have told me, because there's a larger storytelling community, right? It's a big storytelling community. I have this little bubble in it, right? Some people, we have some events, but some people have told me, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Maybe it's a better part of the conversation after everyone tells, that when they hear some of these stories, it feels very dark. And the way it lands on my brain, and maybe I'm just different, is I feel the exact opposite. And maybe that's because I've had a certain kind of struggle and we're drawn to this, to hear these stories. For me, it feels like the darkness is not being able to have a place or people to tell the stuff to. That's like the real darkness. And so when I hear that, I don't always know what to say, but it's striking. It's just interesting to me. So I presumably everyone who's here is here for a reason. And part of them, whether it's support or need to hear it, undoubtedly Janice and Tonica and our other tellers, I think it's so important. Yeah, so thank you. I know you're active in doing this in different spaces. You said something about, you know what, we'll talk about it after. I want to hear more about the Collider. I'm going to be on the Collider too, by the way. I'm pretty pumped. It's a COVID story, though. It's not really mental health. It's just me being weird. And I can say that about myself, I suppose, right? Because it's me. And people like Rana and Maria and Sherry already know that about me. All right. Ken, I know you had some Wi-Fi stuff. You had a story. Are you okay to tell now?
I am. Thank you.
Fantastic. But by the way, Ken, where, if you're comfortable sharing, where are you? What general area?
I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm 72 years old, and I've told stories at the Moth,
Nice.
including was invited to the Moth Ball in
Really?
New York City in 2006. And in fact, I'm going to tell the story in 1 minute that I told at the Moth Ball in front of 500 people in 2016.
Wow. I
Okay.
like the way you're setting this up, man. You got me excited. By the way, you've got a neighbor. I won't name names, but I don't want to call people out, but we've got someone else, a Michiganite here.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, Michigan in the house. All right. We're looking forward to it, Ken. The stage is yours whenever you're ready.
Okay. I hadn't seen him in 40 years. He looked much older and less daunting. I had a chance to ask him questions that had been on my mind forever. Why did you do this? Did you specifically target me? Do you realize how much harm you've done? Are you sorry? Back in the 1960s, in Trenton, New Jersey, Fred was an excellent Little League baseball coach at age 23. He also was a very proficient pedophile. Soon after I made the team at age 11, Fred developed a special relationship with me, and he began to sexually assault me. And over a 3-year period, when I was between the ages of 11 and 14, Fred sexually assaulted me. He raped me 400 times. I suffered the typical extreme lifelong results of this trauma, PTSD, a lot of other issues. In 2004, I became my own hero. I decided to track Fred down and hold him accountable. Through the miracle of the internet, I found Fred. He was still in the Trenton area. And then I decided to try to sue him, file a civil suit and try to file criminal charges. The problem was statute of limitations. However, after a series of conversations between myself and an attorney I had hired here in Ann Arbor, Fred agreed to private mediation. So 40 years later, after having been assaulted hundreds of times by this predator, I sat down in a room with him in front of a retired judge who's the mediator, and I got to ask those questions and many more. It was life-changing. I went from victim to victor. No more self-blame, no more shame, much less pain. I am healing.
Thanks, Ken. Wow. I'm curious. Yeah, how does somebody, how did you come to be like, yeah, I'm gonna take action on this? Was there like a lights, like something switch?
Well, you know, a very common response, there are many different responses to having been victimized in sexual issues. Shame is very common, sexual confusion is very common, anger is very common. And so a lot of times in my adult years, I had a lot of displaced anger, whether it was in work situations or with Comcast, for example, which just was down for the last one. I'm the best insurrectionist against consumer things, but it was displaced anger.
Sure.
So I went to traditional talk therapy with a specialist who deals with male victims. And I found that to be helpful. But what I decided was, I felt one path to some healing for me was to holding the perp accountable. You know, because the other issue that victims face is they hold themselves accountable. They hold them, you know, when you're an adult and think about your childhood, you have an adult view of your childhood.
Yeah, sure.
And then the good news was I looked at pictures of myself when I was 11. In fact, the night before I went to the mediation, I flew to New Jersey and I visited my parents' house. I had not disclosed to my parents that I was a victim. Out of the blue, my mother says, Ken, I have some photos here you might want. This was the day before. She brought out photographs of me when I was in the Little League, which was astounding. And I actually brought those photographs to the mediation, but it was incredible because it reminded me that I was not blameful at all. I was unable to defend myself. I'm 11 years old. Sure. This is a respected man in the community. A lot of respected people in the community are predators. Priests, teachers, coaches. Welcome to Michigan. It's the iconic center of sex abuse in athletics.
Right? Wow.
And even in the Catholic Church. So I decided that this was a route to healing for me. It's not the path for every victim. There are many different paths.
Of course.
But to go from victim to victor and to look this person in the face and to hold him accountable. And his family was well aware of what the accusations were. His kid, he has adult children, they were very aware. To hold him accountable was very, very healing for me. And now the other thing that I have found out is that it's interesting because after I did this, one of my best friends, who I'm still from the team, said to me, well, now you can get on with your life, right? And that was kind of hurtful to me, because what I determined also was, good, bad, or indifferent, every life experience you have contributes to who you are.
Sure.
It's foundational. So I was sexually abused. It's foundational in me. And then learning how to understand that, to retell myself the story, and I've even done some EMDR, which basically to me is personal storytelling and changing the way your brain looks at this. And actually, it's kind of interesting, because I sort of now look at my abuse almost as a third party. I almost see it as a movie. And some of the emotion and anger has been removed from that, and I see it as a movie. But so that's why I decided to do it. And I've encouraged other people to do this. I serve on the board of malesurvivor.org, which is the longest standing advocacy group for male survivors based in New York City.
Great.
So I'm connected with other survivors. I'm connected with the therapy community that deals with male survivors. And I've been an advocate for legislative change. I think the statute of limitations are bad news, but it was very healing. That's a long answer.
Yeah, no, hey. Well, I always say, whether it's an event like this or other events in which people are sharing this stuff, even if people don't say anything to you or put anything in the chat or however they can communicate, people need to hear it. They may never even tell you, and some do, but these stories are helping for sure. And so I really am very grateful for all of you for doing this and sharing. Yeah. We have two more storytellers. Tori is next, and then Madeline. I believe they're both wanting to tell a story. And if in hearing these stories, you're compelled to want to share one, even if it's not a story, if it's loose, this is pretty low stakes. We're just sharing stuff. And then after Madeline, if she is indeed our final storyteller, stick around. We'll have a Q&A. And what I might do actually is ask, if you want to be ask questions or in the position to answer questions, keep your video on. So that's a sort of signal for us that you're open to that. And I can moderate to some degree, but I can't guarantee the questions. So they might be difficult questions, but presumably they're asking with good intentions. So we'll see how that goes. So Tori, if you are still with us, I'm going to pause.
Well, thanks very much. I'm glad to get this story out there. I just want to get it done so that I can see what happens next. Okay. When I was 18 years old, an accident left me paralyzed from the neck down. I know this sounds tragic, and it is, but this story isn't about my tragedy. Because of what's happened to me, I witness unexpected events happening to unusual people in the most bizarre places. My life is truly extraordinary. Rehab is a really difficult experience. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I don't do that. But if you need to be in rehab, the Montreal Rehab is an excellent facility. You get a semi-private room. You share a bathroom with only one person. You don't have to worry about money because we have Medicare. Canadians take care of each other. But that's not that. That's not the hard part. It's the nitty-gritty, difficult work, the sweat and the tears and the pain and the fighting for your life to get back your life. That's the hard part. When, we're all jammed into a small space. We share weights and exercise equipment and mats and therapists and ultimately germs. And for somebody like me with a spinal cord injury so far up on the spine, a simple head cold can fall into my lungs and be dangerous. The thing about respiratory distress is it seems to always happen at night. It's like having a cement cinder block on your chest, crushing your lungs, and you just can't seem to get enough air. When your lips turn blue, they call the ambulance and they send you off because the rehab just doesn't have the equipment to deal with that. So one night, my lips are blue and I'm spending the night in the ER. I've already seen the doctor. He'll, prescribe an x-ray. He'll find the right medication. I'll be back at rehab by sunrise. I know the drill. They put me in a quiet corner and they hope I'll rest. I'm lying on my gurney. I'm covered in a blanket and I'm just enjoying the sound and the effects of the oxygen in my nose. It's such a simple thing to take a deep breath. People do it all the time and they don't even think about it. But not me. I relish it. The cement cinder block is a little bit lighter. My lips have blood back in them. The vice in my brain, well, it's a little bit less tight. And the fog is starting to lift. I do feel better, but I don't sleep. I hear loud voices, feet running up the hall, wheels turning, wobbling, skidding, trying to keep up. And then 6 people bring a gurney into the empty space right beside me. Someone has hit the neon lights above my head, and I'm blinded for a few seconds. The paramedics are still there, and one says, "That happened in the truck. It's pretty deep. Tie that tater." And as they leave to go make their report, I think, suicide? I'm curious, and I look over to my left. I see an outstretched hand. It looks like it's reaching out to me. And the wrist is tied tight, but there's blood dripping onto the floor. Really way too fast. I see a young nurse double the bandage, and I see her hands are shaking. I hear gagging. 2 bigger orderlies sit the person up, and for a brief second, his head wobbles on his neck and he looks over towards me. I can see he's a young man, just a few years older than me, maybe early 20s. His hair is all wild with sweat and grease, and his eyes, he's trying to focus on me, but they're glazed and they're wobbling in the sockets. And when he looks up and his eyes go back into the back of his head, the orderlies push him forward and he empties the contents of his stomach into the bedpan that they've jammed between his knees. I sniff the air. It's sour. There's medication, whiskey. Oh, God, this is suicide. They continue working. I hear the comforting sound of the heart monitor. Beep, He's still with us. Oh, come on, stay with us. And then I hear other sounds, snip, snip of scissors, and then the rip of clothing, and then the flop of wet material being discarded on the floor between us. And then the heart monitor becomes erratic. Someone says, call a code. And the young nurse hits the wall above my head. And there's an alarm going down. Going off at the end of the hall. And there's a red light flashing above the door. I hear footsteps, voices, little wheels turning, speeding up, trying to catch up. And then a new team comes in. The team on the left has already started CPR. They stand back against the wall and catch their breath while the other team arrives and start doing their work. I hear a machine plugged in, charging. And then someone says, clear. And I hear bang and thud back onto the gurney. Come on, come on. You were here with us just a minute ago. And then again, clear, bang, thud. I can feel the current in my own heart. Come on, come on. And then finally, time of death, 3:14 a.m. The work continues. Machines leave. People are leaving with machines. The young nurse, I can see her. She's putting the wet clothes into a clear plastic bag. I wonder if my mother got a bag like that after my accident. I don't get it. Who wants clothes that are torn and ripped and cut, covered in urine and vomit and blood? And it's like I've said it out loud, because the young nurse stands up, looks right at me, takes off her gloves, throws them on the ground, and rushes over to me. She puts her hands on my shoulders and she says, Mademoiselle, are you okay? And I scream in my head, no, he's dead. But I say, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then we lock eyes and we look at each other. And I see she's not fine. She's not fine at all. I ask, are you all right? And the tears that have been welling up in her eyes, they break free and they barrel down her cheeks. We catch our breath for a few seconds together. And then she tries to say something, but she can't find the words. But it doesn't matter, because her hands on my shoulders squeeze a little bit more. And they say, thank you. Thank you for witnessing this. We tried. We tried so hard. And then she leaves embarrassed because she said too much without saying a word. 2 older nurses come. Water is drawn. A face cloth is dipped in the liquid. It's too intimate. I close my eyes and I pretend I'm asleep. The nurses talk to him like he's still there. We're just going to turn you over for a second. Clean you up. Okay, that's better. And again, we're just going to turn you over, change the sheet under you. Okay, that's better. I don't know why they do that, but Are they protecting themselves against death? Or are they honoring the body that has carried the soul this far? I don't know. But it's quiet, and it's calm, and it's gentle, and it's kind. Finally, we're alone. They've turned off the neon lights above. We're in the semi-darkness, and all I can hear is the hissing of the oxygen in my nose. My thoughts are crystal clear now. I look over to my left. Everything's clean now. I can just make out the shape of the young man's body under the sheet. I ask him, what happened? I don't say it out loud because he's everywhere now. He's in me. What happened tonight? Why tonight? What was so painful tonight that you thought this was your only way out? Did you ask for help? Did somebody miss something? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that you thought your life was too heavy to bear. Somebody will come soon. A mother, a father, a sister, or a brother to say goodbye. They may have questions like I have, and they may carry them for the rest of their lives, just like me. If I'm still here, I'm going to tell them that a whole team of professionals fought for his life. We tried. We really tried. Ultimately, his heart gave out. But he wasn't alone. There was even a person on the gurney next to him, cheering him on till his very last breath. But I never get the chance. So I'm telling you this story this afternoon. They picked me up for a chest x-ray. I'll get the right medication and I'll be back at rehab for breakfast. I have to get back to my extraordinary life. But let me tell you this. If ever you reach out to me in distress, I will listen. I promise. Thank you.
Good job, Madeline. Thank you. Wow. And Madeline, you're relatively new to this world of trying to take our life's experiences or the events and then put it into a story, right? This is like newer for you.
Absolutely. I started only in November.
Wow, great for you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to ask a question that if someone asked me, it might be difficult to answer, which is like, how does it feel being new to this? And then you sort of, you crafted it, you told it. Some people, a few people here, you know, most you probably don't. How does that feel?
Well, it's very nerve-wracking for
Okay.
women. But no, I'm glad to get it out there.
Great.
I think I have some stories to tell. Absolutely.
I bet you do. I'm looking forward to hearing more of them.
Thank you.
Thanks again for telling that.
Okay, well, thank you for hearing it.
Of course. Our final storyteller, I believe, unless someone's changed their mind, I've never met. I am looking forward to talking to her. Nishama, where are you comfortable sharing where you are? I'm always curious about location.
I'm in California, Northern California.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right,
And
well, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, I have been kind of tracking you, Sean,
Oh,
from
really?
to event. And I just want to tell you that your performance persona out there is very acerbic and, dare I say, a little snarky. But how you are here is so soft and so open and so compassionate. And, you know, I feel in such good company. And even though I haven't crafted a story for today, I just want to speak up and join this
Great.
kind of this brave community of souls.
Wonderful.
Why I threw myself in here.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, whatever you'd like to share, we're all ears.
Okay, so mental health or mental illness is shot through me from the very beginning, and my whole family, as my husband used to say, we have bad brains. But when I was growing up, and this story goes back, you know, a good 65 years, I was the identified patient in the family. I had had some therapy. My parents didn't know what to do with me. I was pretty terrifying kid. And then I didn't graduate from high school, and I was hanging out in their plush apartment in Central Park West, and it all seemed hopeless. So I made a half-assed suicide attempt. I mean, thank God it was half-assed, because I could have, you know, I could have died and I could have destroyed my organs. But no, it was just taking a whole bunch of aspirin, and I got pumped out. And then my parents needed to do something with me. And so they asked, we have an uncle in upstate New York, and they said, what do we do with her? And he said, there's a place in Pennsylvania, the Children's Service Center, send her there. And so they sent me there. And what an amazing and functional shock it was. It was mostly boys, and they were much, you know, I was by then, you know, like 17, but they were, you know, from like 10 to 14, and they were a mess. It's possible I was the only girl. And the counselors there were young women, and all of a sudden I identified with them. And I realized that if I got away from the scene of the crime, which is what I thought was my parents' apartment, I might just get better. And so I decided I was kind of like one of the counselors. And there were humiliating things I had to do, like bathe frequently, which, I mean, it's not that I was a dirty person, but I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do with my own body. But in this situation, in this peculiar place in Wilkes-Barre, California, I got better. And I even went on to college in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania for one truncated year. And yes, I did another suicide attempt, because life was really painful and I just wanted it to go away. But that one, again, was half-hearted enough so that I didn't take myself out. And then when I rejoined the world, back when I was kicked out of college and got back to New York City, and then I made a life for myself. And I right now, you should know that I am an extremely positive and happy person. But the specter of depression, you know, I know it inside out, and it afflicts my daughter, and it afflicts my 3 grown grandchildren, and it afflicted my son, who died of craziness and alcoholism. So I guess I just want to say that it's possible to have this weight, to have this crap, to have this pain, and to live long enough to get through it. So that's what I'll share right now with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Neshama. Love your name too. Cool name. Thanks for sharing.
Great grandma's name. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put myself on mute now, and we'll go to what.
Yeah, whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable. You are our final storytellers. So we have, looks like most of the storytellers have stuck around, and a few others. And it's 3:15. It's Valentine's Day, by the way. I forgot to say that. Did I need to remind people? No. Hey, it is what Hallmark holiday, right? Hallmark holiday.
Yeah.
I'll put in the group. I think most people know this, but I'll just put in the chat where I house most of the events like this one. We have other things that we do. We have a slam, which is competitive, and Neshama's right. You'll see a different Sean there. And some other things that we do to help people with their storytelling. So I'll just put that in there. I'm not a big plugger of my own stuff, for better or worse, but if you want to learn more, that's where the stuff is, so you can be notified. But with that, I'll say, one, thanks very much, a heartfelt thanks. And two, if you want to unmute yourself and just chat, maybe it's based on the stories you heard or a question you have or something else. I've certainly got some time. So yeah. What are you all thinking?
I'd like to address Tori. Is that correct?
The way you
Yes.
said my name, is that what you mean?
Tori.
Yeah, Tori.
Yeah, I'm so bad. I apologize. Just correct me.
Oh no, you're fine. Janice, right?
Tori, I am also, I would you say survivor? I don't like that word, survivor of domestic abuse. What I would challenge you, if you don't mind, because I have done stories about my domestic abuse. I would like you to explore the moment that you decided that you had enough. That moment where you said enough is enough.
Yeah.
And I just, you don't have to say, just because one of the things that you said is that, which was very profound, is that we blame ourselves. And we also blame other women for accepting the situation. One of the things that I learned was that I had to look at that moment when I made that choice that enough was enough. And that
yeah, like it's funny, I had been chatting a little bit with somebody else, and that somebody had posted a public message, and I wrote back, I'll discuss a little bit of what I was saying there too, but like, I mean, for me, like the moment it was physical, like the moment it was a physical attack, like it was that instant. But like, I would almost say it's almost like I was waiting for it, right? Like that there were many times before that where I felt afraid, but I kept saying to myself like, oh, but he's not hitting me. Like part of my reality is like, well, if he's not hitting me, it's not abuse, right? And he always calmed down and he always backed off. So it's not, this isn't really a problem. And when he actually struck me, can I say one more? I'll just say one more thing.
Yeah, let her finish. Yep.
Yeah, but like, I remember that's when it became very clear to me. But one thing that I was sort of sharing with someone else in the chat before was like, also after that, I don't mean to make it sound like it was easy, right? And I remember telling people in my life what happened. Like I remember when I drove, like as I was driving away, I called my dad, I called my mom, like I told every person I knew. And I feel like part of the reason I told them is because I wanted to force accountability. Like that was a moment where I was like, I know right now, crystal clear, that this is not okay. And I don't want to forget it, right? Because other things happened that were not okay, but I would forget, right? And so that was like, it's something that isn't in this draft of the story, but I feel like I might bring back in because I feel like maybe I make it sound too easy. Like, oh, he hit me and like I never took him back, which is true, but it was really hard. Yeah. And part of the reason I was able to do that is because I sort of gave myself this public accountability, right? In the moment that I knew it, I told everyone because I knew like there's no way they will let me forget. I don't know if that addresses your.
No, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. My realization is totally different from yours, but yes, that's it.
I
do you want to share yours or not? Or I don't know. Oh, I asked if you wanted to share yours. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if I got at what you were trying to ask. I'm not.
No. Abby, there's a moment when a woman is abused. There's a moment when enough is enough, and to understand the period when enough is enough is that moment that you want to make a change in your life.
I think that comes through for me. Everyone hears stories differently, obviously.
Yeah, everyone
got that sense from Tori. Yeah, that yeah, the way you craft it is always all these choices we make. But yeah, Tori, for what it's worth, and you're not really asking this, but I'll volunteer it. I didn't get the sense at all that it was easy. Yeah, it made it clear that it was quite nuanced and not easy. So I don't know if that's what you're going for, but it certainly landed that way for me. Yeah.
So I have a take on it in a certain sense because, you know, as a victim of abuse, even as a kid, the people who are abusive, whether they're people who assault their partner in a domestic setting, or in my case, basically a serial pedophile, part of it, it's difficult to extricate yourself because there are some positives. There are some positives. So, for example, I came from a pretty dysfunctional family. My father was hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital for 3 months. My mother was not the sharpest crayon in the box. And this Little League coach provided things to me that were not being provided in my home. And for sure, he sniffed it out. He sniffed it out. That's what predators do, right? So there were benefits, and then there were these horrible things that happened to me that had lifelong consequences. And I think people who are assaultive, frequently, they do things that make it difficult to extricate oneself from that situation, whether it's somebody doing domestic assault or, in my case, a serial pedophile.
Yeah. Good point, Ken. Yeah. Janice. Janice. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to share that our mind are extraordinary. Our mind is, we have not even touched the possibility of our minds. Many of the things that happen to us is recorded, not only in our memory, but part of our bodies, okay? What I have learned is that to listen to myself, because although I am not fully integrated with my personalities, they do speak, they do have issues. And one of the ways that I do it is by being very in tune to how I feel. And of the way memory works, it could be a sound, a smell, an odor that will bring on these unpleasant or traumatic experiences. The way that I have learned to deal with it is to listen to it and feel it, even though I don't know why, but just to feel it, and hopes that to let it just pass through me, okay? And not to act on it, but just to pass to that, because that's me saying, listen, something was wrong. This is the way I felt. And to give it that acknowledgement.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine that's kind of challenging to do. It probably takes time to sort of get in tune with that, right? And I'm not, just to be very clear, I've never dealt with assault, abuse of really any kind. So this is a different world for me. But as I hear you, I'm wondering, it must be obviously a process to get clearer or get less, whatever it may be. Yeah.
What I have learned is to love myself, and just like a mother or a father or a parent, you just have to parent yourself. There's times where I have to actually say, hey, mental health day, okay, go to sleep, chill out, you have to. I have learned to love myself through my illness. I have learned to respect myself and to love myself.
It's not easy to do.
Not easy to do.
Yeah.
But you have to start with unconditional love, just like you would do with anybody else.
Right.
I'm not perfect. And I have to, and the things that I can't change, most of the things that have happened to us traumatically, we can't change it.
Right.
We can't. And we don't need to accept it, but we need to understand it. And there's things about our illness that will always be with us until the day we're laid down 6 feet under. But it's It's not how much it affects you, but how you affect it. It's a daily struggle.
True. Madeline, I have
Yes.
to say your story. I did turn my video off. You had me sobbing. It was beautiful
Wow.
the way you told it.
Oh,
I really appreciated the way you told that story.
Mm.
thanks. Sorry I made you cry.
No, 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 no. That's the gift of a good
Yeah,
storyteller.
right. For sure.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you all, I know people are sort of more active or less active with the story stuff. You're like regularly writing stories, and if so, like these kinds of stories, or is it something you revisit from time to time for whatever the reasons may be? It's not hard.
Well-
Sean, could you elaborate what you mean?
Sure. So some people who are telling storytellers, right? Just they're always writing stories, always, right? I'm not one of those people. I have to break, stop from time to time. I spend a little more time with stories and over and over and over. But especially these kinds of stories, I don't have one way. I don't know if it's, we call this mental health or a mental health centered story. I don't know if that's the best way to describe them, but I'm always wondering for people out there who are trying to craft these and find places to tell them. Is it something you're always doing, or you sort of have to give it a break, come back to it? You're sort of, for whatever the reasons you need to. Yeah.
Well,
I'm a storyteller. Matter of fact, I just put in, I have a show next Friday.
Uh-huh.
I have a show next Friday. I don't tell stories as therapy. Like you said, don't tell a wound, tell a scar.
If you can.
Yeah, tell a scar. I like to tell stories about my own self-discovery.
That's the ones you want to hear.
Yeah, my own self. And it doesn't matter if they, it doesn't matter. I don't tell a story to say, oh, I'm going to change the world. But I feel that we all have stories. And
For sure.
stories is the human condition and the human experience. And even if a little bit of it gets through, it still is effective,
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
If you help one person,
Sure.
to me, that's success.
Yeah.
So that's part of why I got into this in the first place, I think.
Mm. What about you, Ken? Or I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'm just curious your
So I have,
process. Yeah.
actually, I first told my story that emerged into the 1 minute one
Right.
at the Moth on a lark in Ann Arbor. And the Moth is a national program that ends up, recordings end up on the Moth on NPR. And how it works is they, at venues around the country and also elsewhere globally,
Right.
at nightclubs and bars,
Slams.
they have a venue and there's a theme for the night. And on a lark in 2015, I went and I just thought about, the theme was Lost and Found.
Uh-huh.
And I told that story. And then it's competitive. I won that night, and I won the Grand Slam, and then I was invited to go to New York. But as a result of that, I found the personal affirmation of telling stories and even listening to stories. I think everybody, you can learn so much from other people's experience. And in almost any story that I have ever heard at the Moth, there are elements of it that touched me. Either they paralleled some experience that I had, or I learned about how somebody dealt with this issue. So yeah, I have been involved in Moth storytelling locally, in both Ann Arbor and Detroit. The good news is also I got connected with the storytelling community. So there are people who make a living as professional storytellers.
Yeah, sure,
and some of these people are just wonderful. Or they do storytelling training, and a lot of these people started out in the Moth and then went independent. And so I have a connection to those. And actually for my male survivor group, in October, I organized a 1 hour storytelling thing
Mm-hmm.
where other male survivors and the therapists and attorneys that served them told 5-minute stories in the moth format. And that was very effective. And so, yeah, so the long and short of it is I got hooked into storytelling, and I think it's affirming personally,
Yeah.
but not only the telling, but the listening.
Yeah. Both for
And
sure.
I think that was your point too, Janice, that you can learn so much, and it connects us all. It connects us all, and it's, you know, I've heard some incredible stories of pain and suffering and healing and humor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of the human experience. And to do this, it's great.
Maybe I should have asked you all before a few people had to leave, so I apologize. Are you in anything coming up as a storyteller? I know some people put a few things in the chat. I don't know, you maybe have some other roles you might teach or host events. Does anybody want to share anything that's coming up for them?
Oh, I put mine on the list.
Right, you have something up next Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's in the chat. Anyone else?
John, don't you have workshops coming up?
I'm doing a workshop right now, beginners, and I'm doing that like monthly. And we always have events. We just always, we have a thing on every other Thursday where it's like a story and improv type thing. It's fun, no low stakes, no stakes really, supportive, fun, just to mine for ideas and have a little fun with it. And then on Sunday, we have every 3 weeks or so, we do a story slam, and that is competitive. So it's not for everybody. Some people don't want to make any of this competitive, which I absolutely understand. But for those of you that have that, it's a 99-second format. So when Ken, you were saying your story, I was like, that's a 99-second story, Ken.
Yeah.
You know, if that's the type of thing that might interest you, there's no theme. So yeah, check it out. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a little different, but it's fun. So, but I don't want to talk so much. Others have stuff coming up.
Sean, I wanted to say thank you. Remember when the calendar called, wanted to do that piece on me, and I said, "Well, did you ever hear the mental health happy hour, Misha?" She said, "No." She had no place. You're the only guy that's doing this. Thank you, that I know.
Well, there's not. Well, I'll tell you this: there's not many, and there's certainly not enough. I appreciate you saying that. Yes, the great majority of people out there have no idea who I am or my events, but it's, you know, it's growing, and I'm happy to do it.
She was very excited. She was very happy to be in touch with you.
Cool. Thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Joy.
Yeah, I dropped an event in the chat. That's
cool.
A week from now. It's like there's a story in it. It's like a mashup of improv inspired by poetry, and then throughout the show I write a story, like a poem story inspired by all of it, like an improvised poem story. It's free. It streams online. That's next weekend. But then also I wanted to
Twitch. You use Twitch?
Yeah, so it's a local theater in Pittsburgh.
Very cool.
They stream it on Twitch for free.
I might message you about that. I'm curious to learn a little more about Twitch, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, seems like it's a pretty popular format place.
I was gonna say about your question on story. Sorry, I know we're a little bit past time, but
yeah, it's okay. I can hang out.
The question you asked about stories before, I love. I've been like a poet for years, and then when I moved to the city I live in now, they had poetry slams like once a month instead of every day in New York. And so I went to the Moth, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll try storytelling. And I'm like, really, I love the Moth, right? And kind of very much resonated what you said. It's just these human moments where a good story isn't necessarily about and then all these crazy things were happening. It's about sharing.
Yeah.
It can be one moment of your life and just explaining what that moment meant.
Yeah.
So for me, they have a different theme every month, but for the last 7 years, every month, I don't always put my name in, but I've made it a creative challenge to myself to try to think, can I come up with a true, meaningful story on that theme and prepare it? And about half the time I've come up with something, and some of the time I get picked. So I've probably told 20 stories at the Moth.
When?
What's
Oh,
that?
wow.
Have you won?
I've won 3 times.
That's
Wow.
I won a Grand Slam. but-
Not that that's the barometer or how we're measuring, but it's good. Look, maybe it's just me, but if you go into something like that, it is kind of feels good to win, right? It's got to be somewhat validating.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, it's like, I don't know, I do poetry slam, right? It's 3 random judges, and in the Moth, and in poetry you have 5 judges, and they drop the high and the low,
Right, a little more. Yeah.
which I like, because at the Moth you can have one judge, right,
Done.
who could control everything, right? If they have a big range or if they hate a story.
Yeah, and who knows why they might dislike you or your story, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's like, it's part of like the best story, but I kind of love that. I love the fact that it's not a professional judge,
mhm,
because like the best story is not an objective question, right?
Correct.
It's that we all might answer that differently, and it's sort of a tribute to the idea that this is a game
mhm.
and there's an element of luck, and winning means something, right? But it's like,
Sure.
not winning doesn't mean you didn't do well. But
100%
it's a lot
agree.
more fun when you win, for sure. Yeah.
But it's nice to win.
Yeah.
When your name gets called, you see the numbers coming up. It's got to feel good, right? Like, hey.
Mm.
So one of my compadres from the Moth is a fellow by the name of Nestor Gomez.
Yes, we know
from
Nestor.
Chicago.
Yes.
Do you know him?
I don't.
He's wonderful.
I know. I don't. I've never been to Chicago to meet him, but in my little bubble here, yes, he's told a couple
So
stories with me.
he's
great.
won.
Yeah.
He's won something like 40.
No, more. He's up to
He's-
like almost 60, Ken.
Yeah, he's the
Wow.
nationwide leader
Yep.
in winning slams and grand slams. He's amazing. And actually, he was a storyteller in my male survivor group.
Oh yes, great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
know he's
it's
got
good.
I'm glad. Yeah, he's very, very good, and I know he has a thing with immigration or immigrants. like a
Yes,
whole
yeah,
story
he's
time
80
series.
minutes around the world that
Right.
is a traveling show. And he's very talented.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, and he seems to be really
a
nice.
really nice human being. I got to meet him in New York.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to share this. I done the Moth. I came in second place. But I would suggest, if you're really into storytelling, there's so many platforms to really go on.
For sure.
And I've been very fortunate to have done shows that have been put on podcasts. I have several podcasts on the internet, and to me, that was very fulfilling.
Yep.
That's the way I feel. That's very
Oh
fulfilling.
yeah.
They appreciated that they put it on a podcast. So I have several places, but I recommend, there's so many. If you
Especially
really,
now, Janice, right? On virtual
yeah,
platforms.
oh my God. Oh
So
my
many.
God. Right. And what happens is, when you do the open mic, and if they like your story, they will ask you to do the show.
Right.
You know?
That's how you get your name and your work out there for sure.
Yeah, so I would suggest that there's so much. Just go to Facebook and plug in storytelling jam. There's a whole list, and very prestigious. The Moth is on there. Better Said Than Done, Collider. What else is there's so many out there.
Yeah.
Oh, and what's really exciting is all over the world now. So you can tell storytelling like in Germany and Canada right now. They're looking for storytellers.
Canada.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
What I'm talking about. That's
I attended a storytelling thing this past week with Ada Chang. Yeah.
What was the name of it, Sherry?
Pour one out. Pour one out.
Pour one out. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one girl told a story, and during her story she sang, and she, it was an amazing story to begin with.
Right.
But then with her singing and, bursting out into song, which is,
Wow.
I guess, part of how she is anyway. Like, and then a couple other people, just a lot of talent. That was
Very cool.
amazing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Nice. Where is she? Do you know? Is she out west? Ada?
Chicago.
Is she Chicago also? A lot of Chicago people. Big
Yeah.
Chicago, man. That's where Nestor is. A lot of my friend Steph Rogers, some of you know.
Yeah.
A couple people who were on here earlier watching with us are in Chicago. There's something in the water over there. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is about story in Chicago.
This one girl that told she's actually she grew up a town over from me, but she lives in LA now,
Hmm.
and she was amazing too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, the two major storytellers in the Detroit area who host, actually Satori Shakur,
Hmm.
who has her own, who got a grant from a foundation, and she hosts a lot of stories focused on civil rights and those kinds of issues. And she is just a, she has a long history of stay on the stage and a theater producer, and she's an incredible person. And then the other person who goes between Chicago and Detroit is a fellow by the name of Shannon Cason.
Yeah.
Uh,
He's got his own podcast too, I believe.
yes, he does. He has his own podcast. Yeah,
Is he out of Detroit? You said.
he's out of Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah, I've recently heard him. I don't know where it was. I think Steph Rogers has something called Story Jam.
Right.
I believe he did something with her. They do something very interesting where they write an original song for the story and
Right.
perform it. So I remember that because it was pretty powerful.
You
That's
say
crazy.
Shannon Cason?
Shannon Kasem.
Kasem with an M?
It's
I
I think it's Casin.
Whoop.
If you
Yeah,
do Shannon storytelling, it'll
Yeah.
show it.
I think it's I can look right now. It's Shannon Cason, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Thank you.
does anybody have any plans for this Valentine's Day, the day of love?
I'm spending it with you.
I'm not going to be on here much longer, but I've enjoyed it. Anybody else want to say what they're doing, or is it like, nah,
Not
that's
doing
what
shit.
we're doing, dude. We're not doing shit.
Not doing shit.
Glass of wine, maybe? I don't know.
Isn't every day Valentine's Day really though?
Well, yeah.
Can be.
Can be. I
Yes.
mean, I guess if you're single like me, not really, but you can make believe. But you know, like Janice was saying, you love yourself. It's Valentine's Day for me. I'm just gonna spend it with me, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love me.
But you know, it's kind of cool to be able to just connect with people in something like this or other formats where we
Absolutely.
didn't have this. So obviously, before this, I could be outside with friends or something. But I'm glad at least had this happened even 20 years ago, it would be quite a different experience. And the fact that we have this chance to be on these platforms and at least hear and see people, whether it's stories or not, is kind of cool.
Right.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
guess I'm stating the obvious, but it's been an interesting ride for me to
Absolutely.
meet people.
I know
So-
when this pandemic's over and all you great storytellers drop the virtual stuff, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Oh, I hope not. I hope it doesn't stop you, Sherry.
I wonder if there's going to be some component that stays, even if like just people are so, even the fact that they just know how to use Zoom, for example,
Mhm.
might create some opportunities or spaces online. But yes, people will get busy, right? They go back to their lives.
I think the way we're building infrastructure right now that is
Mhm.
going to stay, right? Like there's
Something.
not
hope
that
so.
it's a silver lining to like an awful thing that's happening, right?
Right.
But technology is advanced and just all of these, yeah, so many events. Like I've been
Yeah.
doing lots of workshops. I've been doing lots of like online learning stuff. Like, and I think a lot of that, once you create that, right? Like it won't be as much, right? Once we can
Yeah, probably not.
people.
Right.
But I feel like we're building, we're creating new technology and creating new networks. And I think that a lot of that is going to stay. So
Yeah, I know Dan Boyd said that he's gonna be doing virtual regardless. So
And yeah. Oh, I'm sure a lot of people will. I think I will be. You know, in some way. I don't know what it'll
I
look
hope
like
so.
exactly.
What
but-
else can you have a world audience?
Right.
I mean, there's like performing on stage to a live audience is awesome, but like
Oh yeah.
as a teacher, I have better attendance now than I ever do, right?
Yeah.
They're always there, right? And even though classes are recorded and they're like they can watch them later,
Mhm.
they show up and they're there, right? Even when it's bad weather, like so there's like, and it's easier to coordinate a meeting, like a faculty meeting. I don't have to go to campus. I can just like log
Yeah.
in and then log right back
Yeah,
out.
And Terry, you can stay in your pajamas from the bottom down.
Yeah, like I'm not even wearing pants right now, and you guys don't
You
know
don't have
that.
to wear
I know,
pants.
we totally know that, Tori. Don't think you're kidding, fooling us. Well, I also think there are some businesses that realize, oh, we actually don't need a place where everyone comes every day.
Yeah.
Right,
Like that just whole model may not be ideal for every company.
right.
And it's very economical because they don't have to put staff, furnitures, all that stuff. So economically, it's very good. I
Yeah.
think that everybody always wanted to do this, but we were forced to do it now. Because I've heard from other businesses, oh, I'm going to go online and do this, but this forced the hand to do it.
Mhm.
Yep. Some people opted in, some didn't, but hey, it's all good. So thank you all.
And wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Same to you.
I see you on the storytelling virtual stage. And the next time I will see you, Sean. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, so
Okay. Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
hosting.
Bye, Madeline.
Bye. Take care.
All right,
Bye.
y'all.
Bye, everyone.
All right, y'all. Bye. Thanks again to Shama
Bye.
and Madeline. All right, Sherry. Sherry, how you
Bye.
doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Nah?
Yeah,
Nah?
Oh,
day.
oh, should I stay?
No,
Did I
yeah,
make
if you want to. Yeah, no. It's
did I make her sad?
No,
I-
no, 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 no.
Did I speak? Because it's suicide has a way of triggering people, right?
yes.
It can, yeah.
It's that kind of story.
I'm a
It could-
survivor, so.
It could have been, yeah. Okay.
Well, you know what's interesting, Madeline? My take on it, and it might be a bit of a, I don't know what it is. If you don't want to hear it, or you can't hear it, you leave.
Yeah.
You get off the Zoom.
Okay.
But, and this is my take, and some people might push back,
Okay.
but people need to tell the stories. So
For
it's
sure.
on
Oh,
you
yeah.
to be aware and
Yep.
leave. But we do live in a
Well-
culture, and maybe I'm not, we live in a culture, I feel like, at least in my lens, where it's, I'm going to get triggered. You can't tell your story. And I'm absolutely like, absolutely
No.
not.
When you enter this forum,
Absolutely not. You leave. That's fine. I'm sorry. But no. And now, had you, Madeline, or anyone else, maybe there's certain ways in which you put the story together that are like, especially graphic and perhaps even unnecessarily. So yeah, maybe that's a little bit like, is that serving the story, or you're just trying, you didn't do this at all.
no, not
Trying-
at all.
Like trying to get a rise out of people and be antagonistic, then I'd say, well, I don't know why you're doing that. But most of the time, in fact, the great majority, that's never the case.
Right.
They're
No.
just, hey, you can leave.
But here's the thing: if you're triggered easily, then you know what it's about.
Yep.
So don't enter in the first place.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the suicide podcasts are different because you could just hit stop, but
Right.
we're talking about suicide.
Mhm.
So
So
don't
yeah.
listen if you don't want. I mean, I don't be a jerk about it.
No, but you're right.
You know what it is. It's clearly labeled.
Yep.
Hit pause or don't listen to it, because there are people that need to hear it. If you're not one of them, or you're not ready to, okay, maybe
Right.
one day, maybe never.
Yep.
That's good.
But yeah, there are a lot of people that will say, and not a lot. I've heard
Yeah.
here and there, like, if you're gonna have an open mic like that, you really should have a therapist or a licensed counselor in the room. I'm like, I'm
No.
not sure about that. I think there are people telling their stories, and people can leave, and I don't want to be a jerk about it. I'm not anti-therapist or counselor. I
Right.
have a therapist. I just don't know if it's absolutely necessary. I don't know.
Well, no, I think that part of the reason that people are drawn to that podcast are the fact that it's just a conversation between two people.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I think I talked a bit about my therapist within our setting when we did our thing, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's a different type of podcast, right? Because there are plenty of podcasts that talk about suicide or other mental health challenges, and the host or co-host is a therapist, right?
yeah,
That's very common. So my take on it was a different one. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but it was really
Right.
meant to be.
yeah,
We're
but you
just
have
talking
training.
about it.
You have some training too, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the crisis text line counseling, and but yeah, no, I don't have any letters. next to my
Right.
name that
No.
qualify me, and I'm aware of that.
Right.
But hey,
Well, same here. I
right,
mean, I run that group, and
right.
I run a suicide support group for suicide attempt survivors.
Oh, you do?
So yeah,
Okay.
but I was dealing with something earlier on that page actually, but
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
yeah, but it's
The
been
experience does go a long way.
almost 6 years now. So,
Oh wow.
and I also work with my therapist to make sure that I'm, handling certain situations correctly, and
Good.
Well,
It was funny. When Neshama said the way she introed herself, for some reason I thought she was gonna say, "Do I have an echo?" I don't know why. It's just the word choice. I thought she was gonna say, I've been following you around," and I thought she was about to say something really positive. Just the way it was framed was like something like, "Wow, you're really making a dent in the scene," or "I've heard your stories and they're really powerful." And it
Right.
was, "You're snarky and acerbic." And then she said, but today I see something different. But I like those moments because I have to, it's like those moments where that's someone's experience of you. And even if it's not exactly how you want to be experienced,
Yeah.
too bad. Right?
Sarcastic. A little.
No, I don't mind the description. And if that's her
Snarky?
experience, that's cool. I could be snarky.
oh, it's just fun. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I think most people look at it as fun. And I think if you've spent any time with me, not to gloat, but like, I'm not an asshole. But I think it's easy to think when someone's rough around the edges, especially if you're not from New York, where that's just a given.
Right.
That equates to negative things. That's not true.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not going to fight that fight. And I don't think she had any bad intentions. I think she was complimentary.
Oh, I know. But when you're just like what you said, when she framed, I was like, what?
Oh, it's
All good. All good.
okay, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I got to run in a sec too. Thanks, Madeline, again. I look forward to talking again and hearing stories.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be getting in touch.
Cool. Yeah. I'm actually working. I got to leave in about 20 minutes.
Oh, you're working. What are you doing?
Yeah, I do performance stuff with a a murder mystery troupe.
Oh, fun.
So they were dormant for a while, but they started up again a few months ago. So it's some Saturdays. So I got to head into Raleigh in about 20. Do that for a few hours.
Sunday, right? Isn't today Sunday?
Because today's Valentine's Day. They have a special show. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, they had one last night. I didn't go. I didn't do that one. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Are you gonna come to the slam as a guest? You slamming?
What? Huh?
Slamming?
Maybe.
Let me know.
I will.
Cool.
I'm kind of dormant. Like,
Yeah.
just not. When you ask that question about storytelling, like, do you go back or,
Right.
keep working? Do you write every day? There's some times where I write every day, and then like when I get hiccups, so to speak, then it's just like my brain just can't format anything. So
I hear you. Yeah. If you ever want to come back to the class, though, I have another class now. We've got 5 students, so just drop in, man, and get feedback if you want. I know it's a little weird because you don't know them as well.
That's all right.
But if you want to, there's space for you, man, because you weren't able to complete that other thing. So just let me know. It's the same day. Oh no, it's not. It's your class was Sundays.
Yeah.
Class is Tuesday evenings. We have 3 more. The first one was last Tuesday, so we'll have 3 more, and it's up to you if you want to join them for the showcase because you weren't able to for the other one.
Right.
Is that cool?
And Tuesdays at what time?
7.
7. All right. You send me a link?
Same link.
Oh, same link. Okay.
You have it?
I think so.
You have it. If not, let me know. Just message me.
Okay, hon.
All right. Hang in there, Sherry. I appreciate you joining us today and sharing.
My pleasure.
All right.
All right.
Be well.
Happy Valentine's Day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.